I'm a 29-year-old woman, and not too long ago, I got a call out of the blue from my mom, whom I hadn't talked to in nearly 5 years. The reason she reached out? Well, my sister and her husband were going through something really bad, and she thought I should know. Now, here's where it gets kind of soap opera-ish. The guy who is now my sister's husband was once upon a time going to be my husband. Let's rewind a bit to give you the full picture. My sister, let's call her Melissa, is 27, and she ended up marrying my former fiancé, Lucas, who is also 29. Lucas and I were college sweethearts. And after dating for nearly 5 years, he decided to pop the question. I was over the moon. Lucas was so excited about us getting engaged that he threw a huge party to celebrate our commitment. The party was everything I had dreamed of. Our friends were there, the music was great, and everyone seemed to be having a good time. The night was perfect, or so I thought. At around 10 p.m., the party was still in full swing, but I needed to step outside into the backyard to get better cell phone reception, because I wanted to make a call. As I walked out, I expected just a quiet night, but instead I stumbled upon a scene that looked like it came right out of a movie. Except it was my life. There, in the dim light of the backyard, was Lucas and Melissa. And they weren't just talking. They were kissing passionately. It took a moment for the shock to register. And in those few seconds, they didn't even notice I was there. I stood frozen, my heart sinking as the reality set in. When they finally saw me, they instantly pulled apart. But the damage was done. The image of them together was burned into my mind. Without thinking, I ran. I dashed to my car, drove off into the night, and didn't stop until I reached the nearest hotel. Sitting in that hotel room, my emotions were a whirlwind. Anger, sadness, disbelief. It felt like a nightmare. Later that night, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Melissa. She was apologizing, saying she was really sorry. But she had fallen in love with Lucas. She confessed that their affair had been going on for quite some time. Just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, Lucas texted me. He explained that he proposed to me in a desperate attempt to forget Melissa, hoping that committing to me would end his feelings for her. Obviously, that plan had failed miserably. He admitted that what he felt for Melissa was too strong, and that in his heart, it was always her. I stayed at that hotel for a few days, each day grappling with the betrayal. It felt unreal, like some sort of cruel joke life was playing on me. Here I was, supposed to be planning a wedding, and instead, I was trying to piece together my broken heart, wondering how the two people I trusted most could hurt me so deeply. It was a tough time, and even thinking back to it now stirs up a lot of emotions. After those tough days alone at the hotel, I knew I had to face reality again. I couldn't just stay away forever. I needed to go back, pick up my belongings, and get back to my job. I couldn't afford to lose it over personal issues. So, after gathering all the strength I could muster, I returned home. What I walked into felt surreal. My whole family was there, including Lucas, as if they were just waiting for my return. Under different circumstances, it might have seemed touching, like they all cared and were waiting to support me. But knowing the truth made it feel like a twisted scene from a play. Since I'd left the party, my phone had been buzzing nonstop. Everyone was trying to reach me, sending texts, asking if I was okay, pleading for me to come back and talk. I hadn't answered any of them. I wasn't ready. So you can imagine the shock and the flurry of emotions when I walked through the day. Everyone rushed over, giving me hugs and expressing relief at seeing me safe. Melissa, of all people, was the first to reach me. She threw her arms around me, tears streaming down her face, as if she was the victim as if she hadn't shattered my world. I was so stunned by everything that I couldn't even move. I just stood there, frozen, while everyone else buzzed around me with concern and questions. Once the initial commotion settled down, I found my voice. I cleared my throat, silencing the room, and announced collect my things and that I'd be moving out for good. The air thickened with tension at my words. Lucas, who had been silent up until then, finally spoke up. His voice was steady, almost resigned, as he told everyone that there was no need for me to leave my own home. He'd already packed his belongings and was planning to move in with Melissa. Hearing him say that, declaring his decision so publicly, was both a relief and a fresh wave of pain. It was an end and a beginning, his words cementing the harsh reality of our broken engagement and the new path he was choosing without me, since now everything was out in the open anyway. My family, my parents, my aunt, my dad's younger sister, who has lived in the same house ever since her husband passed away, actually, had wide smiles on their faces, even though there was nothing to smile about, at least, not according to me. Melissa was standing beside Lucas in an awkward side hug and looked at me very sadly, but still smiling. I couldn't take it anymore and decided to ask my family what the heck they were even smiling about, because as far as I was concerned, Melissa had just broken up my engagement and stolen my boyfriend of almost 5 years. There was really nothing very funny or sweet about this. My mother chose to speak up at that point and told me that they couldn't go back in time and change the past, but they could accept the future. And they knew that the future had Melissa and Lucas together in it. Granted, it was a relationship that had formed out of cheating, and they did feel sorry about it. But they also wanted me to understand and accept that this was for the best. Melissa said that she was very sorry for taking my boyfriend away from me, but she couldn't help falling in love with him. She wished that she could have told me earlier, and I didn't have to find out this way. But apparently, they were madly in love and wanted to spend their lives with each other. Then the two of them kissed right in front of me, and my mother had the audacity to even wipe a tear from her eye. I snapped and told them that this wasn't supposed to be sentimental or emotional, and that what they were doing was disgusting. To my surprise, my family seemed to get annoyed with my behavior and told me that I was being too bratty about the situation. Instead of being happy for my sister, I was making this all about myself, and they didn't approve of my behavior. I was stunned by their attitude about this and told them all to get the heck out of my house. That very moment, I couldn't, for the life of me, understand how they were defending what Melissa and Lucas had done while making me out to be the bad guy and act as though I was overreacting. My father intervened and told me not to act like a child because these things happen, and I should take it in my stride. He wanted me to celebrate that my sister had finally found her soulmate, instead of being jealous of her. They were literally all acting insane, and I couldn't deal with it anymore. So I just said, screw it, went into my room, packed some of my things, and left yet again without even speaking to them or waiting to hear them out, even as they called out my name and told me not to go. I really didn't have anything left to say to them, because it was very clear to me that they cared more about Melissa and her happiness than about me, or even about what was right and wrong. They were so caught up in trying to justify what Melissa had done that they completely forgot that I was also a human being with real feelings as well. After that day, my family tried to contact me several times, but I never responded to them because I didn't think that I owe that to them. A couple of weeks later, I even received an invitation to Melissa and Lucas's wedding, which I declined. Obviously, all the common friends that Lucas and I had also declined the wedding invitation in solidarity with me. And even the couple of relatives who knew the truth refused to interact with my family after they learned how they had treated me in the aftermath of the party. It's been 5 years, and I've pretty much cut them out of my life entirely. They occasionally tried to weasel their way back into my life by wishing me well on my birthday or New Year, but I always ignored them. I never even blocked any of them even, though I did remove them from my following and friends list. But since I have a public account, they could see what I was up to, which is what I wanted. I wanted them to see, and I wanted them to know that I was leading a fabulous life and keep burning with jealousy. It was petty, but it was the least I could do after how they screwed me. Over and up until recently, I barely even had a clue of what they'd been up to in the last couple of years. My mother called me about 4 days ago from a number that I didn't have saved. When I answered the call and realized that it was my mom on the other end, I immediately tried to hang up, but she begged me desperately for one chance to talk to me, because apparently they were in dire need of help. And I agreed to talk to her for just a couple of minutes. But only because she sounded so upset, and my humanity didn't allow me to turn my back on her at that moment. She told me that Melissa Lucas had started a business of their own a couple of years ago, but it was failing badly. And their investors were all backing out because we were failing to make any profit at all. So they borrowed more money, but even that didn't help their business. And now they were neck deep in debt, and the loan sharks were all after them. They were being hounded by everyone from their employees to their investors and the people they said had borrowed money from. My mother knew that I lived a luxurious lifestyle and could afford to help them out, so she had turned to me as a last resort and was begging me to help them out by loaning them some money so they could pay off their debts. And it was no small amount either that she was asking me for. It was almost $75,000 that she wanted me to give us so she could help Melissa and Lucas out. I asked her why wasn't Melissa calling me if she needed help, and why was she making my mother speak to me on her behalf. So my mother told me that Melissa and Lucas didn't even know that she was coming to me for help, as they had given her strict instructions not to approach me because I guess we all still remember exactly what happened 5 years ago. Melissa didn't want me to know any of this and wasn't ready to take help from me, but my mother didn't know anybody else who would have that kind of money and would give it to them at the drop of a hat. A couple of months had already passed, and Melissa and Lucas were struggling to even put food on the table. My parents were helping them all they could, and even Lucas's family were trying to give them all that they possibly could, but it was just not enough. And even they had to be able to support themselves in the future. So it was impossible for them to just give away all the money that they'd saved over the years, especially because most of my family was retired, and so were Lucas's parents. And that's why my mother, with no other option left, had called me to request me for help. Now I could afford to help them out, but I really didn't want to. Melissa was right for not contacting me too. Ask for help. They'd lost the right to make any demands for me the day that they cheated on me. I told my mother that I couldn't help them, and even if I could, I wouldn't. My mother sounded very upset and told me that I was being cruel and I needed to think about my family. I told her that Melissa and Lucas hadn't thought about me when they had that affair, and neither did my family think about me while they were supporting the two of them. So right now, there was no need for me to think about them either. I'd worked hard to get to the position where I am today, and I wasn't about to just go and drop $75,000 on two people who didn't even deserve it. My mother then began to cry on the phone and told me that she had never expected me to grow up to be so selfish, and claimed that my sister and her husband would end up in big trouble if I didn't help them out. I said that it was just too bad, but I couldn't help them. And then I hung up. Since then, My mother has been sending me several texts every hour begging me to reconsider and think about my sister for once. She said that this was not the time for petty revenge and that the trouble that Melissa was in was very serious. So if I didn't help her now, I really would regret it in the future. She's being crazy, and I don't understand what to say to her because I don't want to feel like the bad guy here either. Am I the a-hole for not helping my sister out financially after she stole my fiancé 5 years ago? Update 1. I finally made the decision to block my family's phone numbers and social media accounts. I hadn't done that earlier for 2 main reasons. First off, there was a part of me that wanted them to see what my life was like without them. I kind of hoped they'd see my posts and updates and feel a little bit of regret for how things went down between us. Maybe even miss me a little. Secondly, I was worried about what might happen if I cut them off completely and then something bad happened to them. I thought I might end up regretting not being in touch if, say, there was an emergency or something serious happened. But now I've reached a point where I don't care about those things anymore. Honestly, I think I should have blocked them 5 years ago when everything first went south. I've been asking myself why I kept the lines open this long. Initially, it might have been out of pettiness. I admit that. Like by not helping my sister when she needed it. I was sort of trying to prove a point, but refusing to help them now isn't about being petty. It's about being logical and protecting myself. Over the years, they've wasted a lot of money. Money that they never managed to earn back. It's been one financial disaster after another with them. This time, they came to me asking for $75,000, which is no small sum. Sure, I'm doing okay financially, but that doesn't mean I can just hand over such a huge amount of money without expecting to get it back. Think about it. Even if a close friend of mine was in trouble and needed that kind of money, I'd still expect them to pay me back eventually. But with my family, things are even more complicated. We're not close anymore. They haven't acted like they care about me in years. And based on their track record, there's no way they'd be able to repay me. So giving them the money just doesn't make sense. It would be like throwing it into a black hole, expecting it never to return. I talked this over with some of my friends to get their take on it. I wanted to see if I was being too harsh or unreasonable, but all of them agreed with me. They said that not giving my family the money was the right thing to do. It's not about getting back at them for past hurts. It's simply about being sensible. They pointed out how absurd it was for my family to even expect financial help from me after everything they've put me through. So now I've taken the step to block them. This means my mother can't call me up anymore and try to guilt trip me into doing things for them. It's a relief, really. I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I don't have to worry about their drama or getting dragged into their messes anymore. I can just focus on my own life and move forward without that constant stress. It's like I've finally closed a long, exhausting chapter of my life. And now I'm ready to start a new one. Update 2. Hi guys! So something really big happened today. I was at work when I received a call from my neighbor saying that there was a couple outside my house who was screaming for me to come out and talk to them. My neighbor told me that they seemed pretty crazy and had been screaming at the door for about an hour, refusing to leave. I asked her for a description of them, but in my heart, I already knew who it was. She told me how they looked, and it just confirmed that I was indeed going to run into Melissa and Lucas when I got up back home. My neighbor told me that I needed to come back and deal with this because she didn't think that these two were up to any good. And I agreed when it was Melissa and Lucas that we were talking about. They could never be up to any good. So I thanked her and started driving back home immediately because I couldn't risk them getting into my house at any cost. I got there in about 15 minutes, luckily, and caught them in the act of trying to break into my house by picking the lock on my door. I pulled up in front of my house and asked them what the hell they thought they were doing. And then I tried to call the police immediately, but Lucas was as quick as lightning, and he rushed over to me and knocked the phone out of my hands. Melissa also walked over to me and told me that they were here just to talk, and they didn't want anything from me. Not at the moment, at least. I told them to make it quick and also said that they shouldn't expect me to invite them inside. So whatever they had to talk about had to be discussed out there in the yard. They seemed to be okay with that, which was a relief, because I really didn't think that it would be a good idea to invite those two inside close quarters. They already seemed pretty hostile, so I didn't know what to expect since they said they didn't want anything from me. Melissa started talking and told me that my mother had told her about the phone call and how I'd ignored the subsequent texts from her and then even blocked them off. She told me that the way I was behaving was very unfair and that it hadn't been 5 years since then, so I should really be over it by now. Instead, I was resorting to such silly and dramatic acts just to get a little bit of attention from my family. She said that she felt very insulted because of how I had refused to help them, and that's what she was here to talk to me about. She said that she'd been able to arrange the money for now, but there was a very strong chance that she might need more in the future. And because she'd sold their house and all their jewelry to get the money this time, she obviously couldn't do that again. And so she had to know that she could fall back on me and rely on me for help when she needed it. I told her that no, she couldn't, and she must not count on me at all, under any circumstances, because I hate her and her husband with a passion. I was so angry that I also told her that it was taking me a lot of restraint to not hit her at this moment, so it would be in their best interests to just leave. Lucas had the audacity to say that they weren't going anywhere until I signed the document that would confirm that I would give them money in the future whenever they needed it. I mean, it wouldn't even be valid if I was forced to sign it under pressure. I'm pretty sure there are